All right. The little red dot says we're recording. And guys, I've been blown away by this. I've been looking at this for the last 3 days, been talking to my brokers about it. Yes, brokers, because at EXP Realty, we have more than one. And I'm bringing you information that you need to know, information that's going to help you on listing appointments, information that's going to help you win buyer's business, information that's going to make you a super powerful agent in 2023. And that is going to be assumptions. Assumptions. Now, everything in this video has to be verified with your broker in your state. Everything in this video has to be verified by you as an agent. If you're a consumer watching this, you've got to verify it with your own lender, and everything is up to the loan company who's going to let you assume the loan, and the seller. The seller plays a big part of it too. So if you want to learn more about assumptions, that's what this video is going to be all about. If you're going to want to learn how to win more listings, win more buyers, I'm going to show you how to use assumptions as one of the tools in your desk to win those appointments. So let's get into it. If you don't already know, yes, my name is Josh Barnett, and I am with eXp Realty. If you're upset at your current brokerage, you don't feel like you're getting all the value that you should be getting as a real estate agent at your current brokerage, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. eXp Realty is absolutely obsessed with agent success, and I'd love to show you whatever it is you're missing, how eXp Realty has that tool to make you take your real estate to that level that you want it to be at. Okay, so let's get into this. Let me share the screen with you guys. You are going to be blown away by today's conversation. So let me get that off the screen. Let me get this off the screen. Oh my gosh, can't believe I don't already have that off the screen. This is like my third webinar I've done today, and I had to do that each time. So frustrating. So okay, that should shrink down. It should shrink down. Come on, shrink down. Why won't it shrink down? This is embarrassing. Okay, it shrunk down. Perfect. Okay, and now, guys. Okay, it is all go. Okay, so you need to know some key information for assumptions. So first off, you need to know what type of mortgage the seller has. So let's start a little note sheet. Okay. So I told you I'd give you the link to this, didn't I? So this is only based off of Oklahoma, guys. So you got to verify with your own association, your own state commission, et cetera, what they have going on. This is Oklahoma specific, but I'm sure this is going to be useful information in all the states. Okay, so first off, let's start a new sheet real quick. Let's do a keep. Let's make a keep for it. Okay, Google Keep. And move this over here. And I want to make this extremely small. And then, okay, loan assumption checklist. Okay, and I will turn this into a Google Doc, and I will put it on the thingy too. Show checkboxes. Okay, so I will turn this into a Google Doc and put it in the notes below too, so that you guys have that for later. So, okay, so first thing you want to know, what type of loan it is. Okay, so that's very important. So write that down on your little note sheet, what type of loan it is. Or I mean, you could just use this as your note sheet too, but I've got to write this down so that I have it available for you guys at the end of today's thing. So what type of loan? And that's something you have to get from the seller. Only the seller can tell you that. You can look it up in the tax records if you want to. If you want to be a proactive agent, you can look it up in the tax records, but you also need to get the seller to confirm it. Okay. And then when you're going on the listing, you always want to ask them nowadays, hey guys, is your loan assumable? And if they don't know, say, guys, here's a checklist. Here's a set of questions to ask your servicer who's in charge of your loan if it's assumable, and we need all of these questions answered. So what type of loan it is, okay? So reading on, it also says, what is the approximate balance? Now that could typically be their whatever their primary is, because it says approximate. It uses the word approximate. So what is your primary balance? And if they don't know it, just say, hey, do you have your last month's mortgage statement? And you could look it up on the mortgage statement. You're a real estate professional. You could read, right? Yes. Thumbs up if you can read. I believe you can read. You all have a real estate license. And then it says, in the favor of, that is, who is the lender? Okay. These are all questions that you need to know as a listing agent and a buyer's agent to do a loan assumption here in the state of Oklahoma. And I'm sure this information is good for other states too, but verify, verify, verify. Don't this, I am not the source. You have to go verify with the source and yourself, which bears an interest rate of no more than blank. So be sure to ask, what is the interest rate? Interest rate. That's a funny word. Interest, right? All right. Yeah, it is. Okay. So once you figure out that information, you'll know how to fill out the top part of this. And this is super important. So here's the thing. If you've got a house and there's two similar houses, but one house is giving you the option to the loan, assume the loan, and the rate is 3, 4, 5% less than it is on the open market right now, which house do you think that buyer is going to pick as a listing agent? That's going to make your home more marketable. That's going to make your home sell faster. Okay. And as a buyer agent, you want to win more buyers' businesses. You could tell that buyer during the buyer consultation, hey, if we find an assumable loan, do you have 50 or 60,000 or $100,000 to put down to assume the difference in the loan? Do you have that? Guys, the last 2.5 years, people were putting down 50, 60, 70, $100,000 over asking price. Why not do that same thing now and assume a loan with an interest rate that's 2, 3, 4% lower? Everything has to be verified. Every situation is different. Full disclosure, guys. So come on. Does that make sense? Thumbs up. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Thumbs up if that shows you how you're going to win more business by being a more proactive agent. So application approval. This is standard financing addendum language that you find on the typical financing addendums. And then clause B right here, within 30 days of the time reference date or such a longer period, the seller may grant in writing. The statement of loan approval is not delivered. The seller may provide notice of cancellation and terminate the contract. So you got to stay on top of your buyer, make sure that they're doing everything they can on that assumption application. Okay. Make sure they're doing everything they can on that assumption application, and make sure the assumption department for the lender is doing everything they can too, to make sure that you get to the seller a statement of loan approval. So make sure that your buyer gets that to the seller. And as a listing agent working out for the seller, make sure you're following up on that statement of loan approval. Make sense? Okay, cool. Okay, so here's a big part of the Oklahoma assumption loan right here. So fixed equity with adjusted purchase price. So if they say, hey, I don't care what your um what the sales price is going to be, but I will pay you X amount of dollars for that equity. Okay. Let me take that back. The equity that you have in the home, I'm going to pay you a fixed amount for that. So let's say 150,000, for example. Okay. And so whatever with an adjusted purchase price. So basically, I mean, just read it. The buyer shall pay exactly 150,000 for the equity, and the purchase price shall be the loan balance at the time of closing plus the exact equity as stated below. So if the seller gave a primary number up here of 250,000, okay, does that make sense? 250,000 right here, but it ends up being 252,000 for example, okay? This checkbox right here says the buyer's going to pay that extra 250,000 to that extra $2,000. Okay, if they put 250 here, but it turns out to be 252 right here, the loan balance plus the exact equity above, it now became a $402,000 house instead of a $400,000 house. Does that make sense? Okay. If it doesn't make sense, call, text, or email me. We'll go over it in detail. Fixed sales price with adjusted equity. I think most people are going to be choosing this. Here's why. Because if the buyer wants to buy the house for $400,000, okay, then they need to make up the difference. So using the same example, if they put 250 here, but it ends up being 248, instead of 250, then you're going to buy the house for $400,000 no matter what. So that means you'll have to bring an extra $2,000 because instead of 250 up here, it was 248. because this is an exact sales price. Does that make sense? Questions, comments? If it doesn't make sense, let me know. Let me know. So right here, this is an important part too. Escrow accounts, interest, and payments. This is really important to read this part too. The escrow account shall be purchased by the buyer. So if the seller's really close to their original purchase date, that escrow account is going to be a lot bigger, a lot larger than if the seller is 2 or 3 months after the original escrow date. Because after the original escrow date, they usually pay out their insurance. And if it's towards the end of the year, then they usually, if it's right before the end of the year, they have a big tax escrow build up too, typically. But if it's, say, February or March, the taxes have already been paid. And if they closed in December, then they have a low tax escrow and they have a low insurance escrow. But if they closed in March, they'll still have a high insurance escrow if you're closing in January compared to it, and no tax escrow. Does that make sense? Just pay attention to the escrows because those numbers really matter because the buyer has to purchase the escrow at closing. Okay. Any escrow shortage has to be made up by the seller. So if the seller wasn't paying his escrows, he has to make that up at closing. The buyer will be required to show proof of hazard insurance acceptable to the lender at closing. That makes sense. And then otherwise provided interest on the mortgage described in the contract, the mortgage insurance, if applicable, shall be prorated between the buyer and the seller. The seller shall pay these assessments through at the day of closing. So mortgage insurance. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, now here's the kicker too. VA. This is really important, especially for the VA buyers, especially if the VA buyer is going to want to use their entitlement to buy another home. Clause 5B on this Oklahoma assumption addendum is really important. The contract is contingent upon the VA substitution of entitlement is required by the contract prior to closing. So that means you got to get the VA and the lender to give that veteran back their substitution of entitlement by closing when you click is. But if it's not required, then that makes the process a lot easier. Like if the seller's not going to use the VA loan again, they're not worried about ever using a VA loan again, then you click is not required, and that will tie up that amount of the loan of the VA eligibility for that seller if they were ever to use it again until this loan is paid off. So pay attention to that. And then right here it says VA approved release of liability is required prior to closing too. So the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission is definitely taking care of that part right there for the VA seller right there. Okay. Make sense? Thumbs up. Learn assumptions. Learn assumptions. Read this. Talk to your broker about it. If you're thinking about EXP and you want some help on it, call me about it. We can chat about EXP and I can chat with you about this loan assumption. Okay. So buyer's expenses, in addition to any other charge expenses required by the contract to be paid by the buyer shall also pay at the time of closing, unless otherwise provided in paragraph 7. That's the inspection part. First year hazard insurance and flood insurance premium if required by the lender, buyer's recording fees, buyer's transfer fees, and buyer not to exceed X amount of dollars and other loan fees required by the lender VA FHA. So X amount of dollars, just do your estimated cost of buyer sheet. You know what those X amount of dollars are, minus this, minus the recording fees, minus the transfer fee, and other loan required by the VA lender or any other loan fees. Does that make sense? All right. That makes sense. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Guys, this is cool. This is going to make you a powerful agent. This is going to help you on your listing appointments, being able to ask the seller pointed questions. What type of loan do you have? What is the primary balance of your loan? Who is the lender? What is the interest rate? You also need to get that seller to call the lender and order the assumption package. So you also want to have the lender, have the seller contact the lender for the assumption package. Okay? That way they have that already filled out and ready to go for when you do find a buyer who does have the cash to cover the equity, the difference between the loan balance and the sales price. When you do find a buyer that does have that ability, they're out there, guys. For the last 2.5 years, people have been paying 40, 60, 70, 100, sometimes more than $100,000 over asking price just to win the home. People still have that amount of cash. And why wouldn't they want to pay the difference to get that low interest rate that people were getting 2-3 years ago, right? When you got a house that you can buy and assume a loan and pay the difference in the loan and the sales price, pay the difference in it for a low interest rate, a 2, 3, 4% interest rate that's lower than another house who doesn't have an assumption loan, that you do have to get a 6.5, 6 or a 7%. Everyone's terms and conditions are different. Verify with your own lender. Which house is more attractive? The one with the assumable loan? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Think how much cheaper those interest rates are. If you're talking about a $400,000 house, folks, a 1% interest rate is an extra 4 grand a year. An extra 4 grand a year. If there's a 3% interest rate, that's 12 grand a year. That's college tuition in a community college, I think. I haven't checked college tuition in a while, but that's a lot of money. When you're talking 12 grand extra a year, this house is 12 grand less per year than this house. Which house is going to sell faster? As a listing agent, you need to know these questions. As a buyer, you need to know these questions. Any house that your buyer's interested in, when you schedule that showing, you need to email that agent and send them a list of these questions. Hey, is a seller's loan assumable? If it is, can I get these questions answered? That way, if the buyer's interested, we'll be able to move quicker. It's going to make that listing agent look cooler to the seller too, even though they're using your questionnaire sheet. But who cares? You're in sales. You're here to make a deal, right? You're a salesman. You're a saleswoman. Learn assumptions, guys. It's going to make you a powerful agent for the next year, the next 2 years. Who knows when these interest rates are going to go down again? If you know assumptions, you're going to get more business. You're going to close more deals. You're going to make more money. And that's what it's about. It's about helping people with houses, but making money. If you don't make money, you can't pay your taxes. You can't buy groceries. You can't buy gas. You can't put shoes on your kids. Okay. You're in business to make money. Be a better salesman. No assumptions. Be a better saleswoman. No assumptions. Close more deals. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That way other agents know that it's out there. It's a good video. YouTube can pick it up, share it with other agents to know it's a good video on assumptions. But verify with your brokers, with your lenders, with your state organizations, everything about assumptions. This is not legal advice. This is not lending advice. This is a real estate agent reading the Oklahoma assumption addendum to you so that you can become a better real estate agent. You can sell more houses. Guys, as always, if you're stuck at a brokerage and you don't feel like you can grow anymore, if you're stuck at a brokerage and you feel like you're not getting the support that you want, you absolutely got to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. eXp Realty has HR department, has accounting department, has payroll department, has all sorts of departments to handle everything for you so that you can focus on selling. And if you want to know about the other 2 ways to earn income, through stock purchases and through revenue share, eXp Realty has other ways for you to make money than just selling houses. You don't have to sell houses till you die anymore, guys. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And you don't have to go around recruiting either. That's fake. You don't have to do that. People will see your success. They will see what you're doing. They will see what you're excited about, and they will naturally ask you about it, guys. You can build it. You can make it. You can do everything you want to do. Plus, only a $16,000 cap. Guys, if you've got questions about eXp Realty, you absolutely give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. That is my real cell. I do not give that out to anyone except on this channel. That goes directly to my cell phone. My cell phone. Nobody has that. My customers don't even have that. I want to talk with you about eXp Realty. I'll see you guys on the next video.